For anyone wondering what the Blender Grease Pencil is, well, it was originally an annotation tool. It was supposed to be used to draw 2D strokes in a 3D space. Probably for storyboarding or other forms of articulation, I don't know. What I do know is, based on as many videos as I've seen on YouTube, people were purposely trying to use the Grease Pencil tool to draw and animate with. Now, I originally thought what came next started in 2015. Apparently it was 2017? Again, I don't really know. But there were talks that began, discussions about how they were going to improve Grease Pencil, how they were going to separate it. There's the one people were trying to use, which would remain as an annotation tool, and then there's a new one that you were actually supposed to animate with. And this idea would unfold in the course of 2 years. First came the preview video, then came the beta that had it. Then in almost August of 2019, it finally hit the shelves. But it isn't without its problems. See, it favors and outright wants traditional artists. If you're an Adobe Flash artist, you will catch hell. What you see before you is the result of opening up a new default 2D animation file, where and when, as soon as you check the Layers tab, the first two things you see should warn you about this right away. Lines and fills. Lines, or the strokes, and fills, the colors inside those strokes. They do not expect, or should I say, want you to put both in the same layer. But that's the least of it. First, there are no layer folders, so if you have too many layers, you're just screwed. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. I wasn't paying attention when I was recording, so I failed to switch scenes while I was doing most of this. But what you see before you are two boxes, with a rim effect attached to them. So, what's the problem here? They're both on separate layers, and I cannot restrict the effect to either one layer or all but one layer. Yet again, I am not alone. I'm not going to listen to anyone who tells me to use a compositor, or Python, or to learn coding in order to learn Python. See, those are all viable solutions, no doubt, but they aren't logistical. That would be time better spent elsewhere with my skill set. I would need far more time than necessary, as opposed to anyone who will come up with a solution much sooner, in whatever manner. And here's the third problem. Interpolation. See how these objects are interpolating? All I did was try to rotate them. So, why are they behaving this way? Well, there is in fact an answer for this one, brought to you by Blender Stack Exchange. The first place you'd go for answers, the last you'd go to ask questions. I would know. The strokes are made of points, and those points will only ever interpolate in one way, a straight line. So when moving or scaling objects, you will never notice. But when you attempt to rotate, the points will not curve during interpolation. Instead, they will go in a straight line. The quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. This is why the circle shrunk. This is why the square distorted. Why go around as anyone would want it to, when instead they could just go in a straight line? That is to say, all you traditional artists should feel right at home. All you Flash artists, however, are in for rough weather. See, traditional artists would never experience this problem. Why? Because they would animate things frame by frame. Flash artists, however, would experience problem after problem. So with all these problems, why don't I just use different software? Again, the logic is all there. There are plenty of alternatives to this problem that surely, given enough time, I could mitigate these problems, but the logistics say different. See, Blender's Grease Pencil is already an environment I know, an environment I am used to, an environment I am accustomed to. I know Blender practically inside and out. I don't use all of its features, but I know it well enough. Or, at least, I'd like to think so. So even though I could use a different program, the amount of time spent learning that program alone would far outlive and outcost the amount of time someone could take to solve the problems I've mentioned. Or, even if they didn't, the amount of time I could spend looking for another workaround. Be it a clunky one, sure, but a workaround nonetheless. But I hope Blender's developers see this video. I hope they understand all the problems I've pointed out here. And I hope, non-maliciously, that they at least acknowledge the problems. That, however much time it takes, hopefully not too long anyway, that they would at least attempt to solve it. Because I know I can't. Which basically makes me a choosing beggar. But it's all I can do at this point. Besides sitting and waiting anyway.